So one of the most common questions I get is how do you pick a racket? Okay, so there's many factors. The shape of the grip itself, the grip size, the weight of the racket, the balance of the racket, and the price. I designed this one. This one's called the Cliff Swain racket. Sounds kind of funny saying your own name over and over. But anyway, I like the teardrop shape. I think the quadriform is also really good. So a quadriform racket will be a little thicker right in here, like this gearbox racket I'll show you in a minute. But I think the teardrop shape has a little bit less drag, there's just less width in here, so I think it comes through a little bit faster. So to the grip, which I think is one of the most important parts because it's what's attached to your hand, okay? I think the type of grip, the one I use, is the Tacky Mac rubber grip. I think with a leather glove and a rubber grip, it's just much more tacky than the standard leather wrap grip that it comes with. The size of the grip, this is a 3 5/8 grip. I have like medium-sized hands, but with the rubber grip, it makes it slightly thicker. So, and I like it just a little bit bigger than the 3 5/8. So not only do I like the tackiness of the rubber grip, the size of it is just a little bit better to me. The shape of the grip, one thing I really don't like, some of the companies have a really round grip, and when the grip is round and you're running around in a rally, it's just tough to tell where the face of the racket is. And the more rectangular it is, the more almost like square some of them, and with a little knob right here, it feels like almost like a mini box in your hand. That way you can tell without looking at the racket where the face of the racket is, because ultimately that's what's most important, is that you hit the racket, you hit the ball like that with the racket shaped face like this, but if it's round and you're running quickly, it's just a little bit more difficult to tell exactly where the face of the racket is. And that, to me, how all of this feels in your hand is just really crucial. The weight. You know, a lot of people like a lighter racket. Just beware when you pick up a racket. You know, sometimes it just feels really good because it's super light. Like you think, you know, wow, I can get this really through really quickly. But sometimes when they're just too light and say you're a power player or you play against a lot of power players, when the ball comes very quickly and the racket's very light, you can get overpowered. I have used like a 150-gram racket many years ago, and it was very maneuverable, but the trade-off wasn't completely worth it, in my opinion. So if you have a shoulder injury, or you consider yourself weaker, or just some people really, really like a light racket, but just if you're not really dying for that, just beware when you're in the store that just because it feels good like that, in that way, the super lightness of it, it might not be perfect on the court. And the same goes if it's too heavy. You know, or feels heavy when you're taking it off the rack. If it's 180 grams, which I think is about the max it should be, 180 grams, you're not going to get overpowered, but it is going to be a little bit slower coming through. But I think you can get power with a little bit less effort with a heavier racket, but it is, again, going to come through slowly. And to me, probably the most important thing on that subject of shape and weight is balance, okay? So when the racket is balanced really, really well, you can feel it coming through the hitting zone perfectly. When rackets are not balanced very well, I feel like they kind of waffle. There's just no other really good way for me to describe it. What I want is for it to come through the hitting zone on the way down without moving. If it moves a little bit, just the tiniest bit, when you hit the ball, it's going to be harder to hit perfectly squarely. So this one's 169 grams. It's a teardrop shape. It has a slightly rectangular shape with a small knob, and the weight is predominantly right here on the racket. So not only is it great for balance and power, it also makes it a little bit more durable in the areas that you might hit on the wall. If it's head light, most of the weight is down here, which tends to make it a little bit more breakable up here. This is the Harrow Connect right here. This is a great racket. It's 170 grams. Another thing that people want to factor in is price. Obviously, this is probably the best deal going. It's $150 approximately. I'm sorry, this one's 160 grams. And I think it's just a great overall racket. It's a little bit thick in here, which to me makes it more durable. And sometimes some people think that's less maneuverable, but I don't. I think that this one is really, really great. This is the E-Force Apocalypse. And this one's 170 grams. It's like a teardrop shape. This is, to me, the E-Force racket is different than all of the other ones. It's the most unique because the strings don't stop right here. They go all the way down, and that's their big technology, is the long string technology. which some people think it moves the sweet spot to right here, which some people don't like. But people who really like this racket say that they love how powerful it is because of how long it is, creates more of a trampoline. Personal opinion. It also has these power boosters right here on the side. Again, some people really love this racket. It's just very unique. A lot of little things to it, like the long string technologies, these Richter tubes in here, and the power boosters on the side. Just a lot of stuff going on, and some people really are fanatical about the E-Force racket. And this one goes somewhere around $250, one of the more expensive rackets. This is the Gearbox Max 2. This one's the quadriform shape, so you can probably see almost no difference, but right in this area right here, this racket sticks out just a little bit more. And that's, again, personal preference. Some people think it's a bigger sweet spot. Some people won't like it because it has a little more drag because of the width down here. But either way, this Gearbox racket is spectacular. I think their technology is amazing. They have very little breakage. This one's 170 grams. It's called the 170Q. It's 170 for the weight, obviously, Q for the quadriform shape. Great, great overall racket. And definitely you can notice on this one that it's head heavy, so I can feel that it's super solid coming through, but definitely a little bit heavier trying to bring it around. Racquetball people just don't give enough attention to is string. You know, often rackets come with very cheap or inexpensive string in their racket, and you know, tennis players and squash players usually cut the strings right out of the racket immediately and go get a very high grade string. And I think it's the most inexpensive way to make your racket, your $220, $250 racket, a great racket, or it's, you know, a poor grip and poor string job is a very easy way to ruin a very high-end racket. This, I use the Ashaway string, and I use the Power Kill 17 gauge right here. So 17 gauge is in the middle. Like, there's a 16 gauge string that's usually pretty thick and a little less feel, a little less play, and then there's an 18 gauge string. This one's the Power Kill Pro. That's the 16 gauge string. It's very thick, not going to break as much. And then there's the 18 gauge string that's going to give you a lot more play. Tends to break a little bit more, but if you don't mind restringing your racket and you have 3 to 5 rackets in your bag, you're going to get amazing play on it. A lot of trampoline, a lot of power, but it may break occasionally. So again, this is the Cliff Swain racket right here, 169 grams, teardrop shape. And I have the Power Kill 17 gauge string, and I also string mine at 35 pounds right now. The theory is the lower you string, the more trampoline effect you're going to get, and you're going to hit it a little bit harder with a little bit less control. I don't really buy that. I think you go too loose, you're going to get no power and the ball is going to spray around. I think you just need something middle of the road. And then the theory on the other end is if you string it very tight, 38 to 42, you're going to get amazing control but lose power. Some pros will go that route because they already hit the ball plenty hard. I go in the middle, 35 pounds, 17 gauge, so my strings very rarely break, and but I bring, you know, 5 or 6 with me just in case to a real tournament. And overall, this is the way I do it.